Low quality fans of a high quality Bruins team, welcome back. We're going to talk prospects. I've been inspired to talk prospects. Sorry about how long this has taken to get out. I am so unbelievably sick again. And look, to that, if you've been watching this year, you might go, dang, low qual, you get sick a lot. And I didn't used to, but I'm pretty sure my enjoyment of and in Thailand has absolutely destroyed any immune system I had, because I have been struggling since March. But it's fine. We're gonna get better. It'll all work out. That being said, I was inspired to do a prospect list, a top 10 list. Everyone likes 10. I don't know why. 10's the perfect number. It's also my favorite number. It works. I was inspired by two things. One, Dom Tiano, who is going to be linked below. He does an excellent job covering the prospects. He's just kind of a cut-to-the-truth kind of guy, gets right in there. I think he has a podcast as well. I'll see if I can put that below as well. But I just like supporting people like that who do a bunch of work, keeping up with these guys better than I ever could. But I try to keep tabs on them as well. My list is a little different than his. Different opinions, that's totally fine. But I was also inspired by a terrible list, which I will not mention the name of, and I will not tag below because I don't want to support it. But it was clearly someone who was just like, I took a list of Bruins prospects and put them up for clout. Not great. So I'm going to do my own list, a list that I like. And the rules for this list are pretty simple. But I want to be kind of clear that this is based off of the ceiling of these prospects in my mind, as well as the realistic chance for them to get there. So there's going to be a dash of homerism in there from me. I can't help it. I'm a Bruins fan, as you might notice. But I'm going to do my best not to get some wild take and just pick my favorite prospect for blah, blah, blah. And he's number one because I love him. We're not going to do that. Mel's is higher than he should be. I'll tell you that right now. But other than that, I'm going to do my best to be truthful and honest. Everyone has their own arbitrary rules for these things. I did not include a age requirement because I didn't want to, which means players like DiPietro or Bussy are still part of this. And I guess Brazeau would be considered as well, except the other rule, of course, is if you have basically locked up a NHL roster spot, I'm not including you on this list. I think Brazeau is very much going to compete for a bottom six role next year. I think Lohrei and Beecher are basically sure things to be on the NHL squad next year. And although Patra was in the NHL last year, there was a piece of that came from the fact that he could not be in the AHL. So, let's talk about Patra for a second, because he's not on the list, because I don't think it's fair. I think he'd be your number one automatically, because he has, at 20 years old, 19 years old, he's in the NHL. So really, the only thing I'm going to say about Patra is he's 20 this year. He is most likely going to be in the NHL. There is a non-zero chance, though, that he starts the year in the AHL. Depending on how his rehab is going, depending on how he looks in camp, they have the option to put him in the AHL this year. I doubt they do. There's just a real chance for it. It just depends on how the next couple of months goes for him. But he's an offensive creator. He can play second line minutes right now. I genuinely believe that. The only issue is he's easily knocked off the puck. And if the brass is looking at this going, we need to be harder on the puck, genuinely, and they've mentioned this, they might look away from Patra for a year and say, we'll give him more time to develop. We want to get some guys in that can really push the pace, but also be strong on the puck. He's too easy to knock off. The good thing is he's kind of hard to catch, and his vision and ability to make a miss, it's just so fun to watch. You know what Patra is, though. So we're going to go in and we're going to talk about my top 10 prospects. Of course, before we get to the actual list, though, we have some honorable mentions. Like, comment, subscribe. Nailed it. Snuck it in there. You didn't see it coming. Honorable mentions. We have 4 of them. In no particular order. But the first one I'm going to mention is Ryan Mast, a 21-year-old right-handed defenseman who signed his ELC way too early for where his path is towards actually making it to the NHL. Because he's years away. He's years away, and he's already in his second year of his ELC. He is a big, hulking man who does not skate super well, doesn't think the game super well, doesn't have great hands, but he's a big body, great on the penalty kill, shuts down players, probably ceiling of a 6th best defenseman on a team, but like a guy that still matters that you like rooting for. Not a Forbort type, more of like a Wotherspoon type, maybe, I guess you could go with, but without the ability to get the puck up ice. Wotherspoon, I think, is underrated a little bit there. So I just really enjoy him because last year they signed him to the ELC, and I went, what? What are we doing right now? And they just went with it. They just like size. I don't know. Really weird, but if he doesn't make a huge leap when it comes to his skating ability, he's not going to sniff NHL minutes. It's a tough one. We'll move on. Frederic Brunet. This guy actually hits a lot of people's top 10 list. He is a clever puck-moving defenseman, would look good on pretty much any power play unit. I don't really enjoy watching him much because I feel like he has the talent to be a really effective top 4 defenseman. Genuinely effective. I mean, that's a big compliment. But soft on the puck, doesn't have that extra gear to make the big play, tends to go huge chunks of the game without you even remembering he's on the ice. And remember, you can say that about a shutdown guy. You can say that about a defensive defenseman, like, oh, I forgot he was out there. That's because he's doing his job well. The only time you ever see him is when the puck's getting moved away from a player and then up the other way. That's a great job, Carlo. Keep it going. Forgot you were on the ice? Good. A puck-moving defenseman? A guy who is counted on to get the puck in deep or make a play on the blue line? You want to say his name a couple times a period. Brunet just takes shifts off immensely. This is unfair to say. I know this. You watch him play, and sometimes it looks like he doesn't like playing hockey. I'm not a big fan of him. And I know he's got the talent, but I am just not a big fan of what he does. It's kind of a bummer, too, because when he decides to, silky smooth. Just so silky smooth. We'll see how he develops. Trevor Kantar, another interesting one. I've been very critical of Kantar in the past. I feel like he doesn't think the game fast enough, kind of all over the place, just a sporadic guy. But he's forcing his way into a bottom 6 role just out of energy alone. You love these guys. He's a fan favorite, empties the bucket, doesn't shy away from contact, although not overly physical, but he will mix it up, loves to shoot when he gets the chance, and has a bit of a pill of a shot. Like, the guy can get it on net, but there's just too much to his game where there's not enough talent, I guess is where I'd go with this. Not enough hands, not enough speed, not enough hockey IQ that I think he can make a realistic push to be a impact player at the NHL level. The way he keeps forcing his way into the lineup, though, I just, with that kind of energy and stuff, they're going to give him a look. So at camp, who knows? Maybe he has a really big camp. Maybe he has that extra gear, and the team is looking at him at a bottom 6 role. But that's as far as you're getting with Kantar. And lastly, Jackson Edward. He's a 20-year-old left shot defenseman. He is probably the best chance of the honorable mentions for a full-time NHL role. Look, you're going to love watching this guy play. He's a true defensive defenseman, but with the asterisk that he is not the name that disappears for a full period. He's not the quiet defensive defenseman that just does his job well and keeps it moving. No. He relishes the opportunity to shut down the best player on the other team. He loves it, and he competes like crazy. He's number 11 on the list. You could look at it that way. I said no order for the honorable mentions, but this guy has it, meaning the ferocity, the tenacity. You can't teach that. His skating's fine, right? He has the skating to at least keep up. Not much ability to move the puck. Certainly not going to be a scoring guy. Not going to put the puck in scoring position either, but he gets the puck deep. He will also kill you. I mean that. He will. I don't even know if I'm exaggerating, honestly. The guy is nasty. The only fans who will like watching this guy play are the ones cheering for the team he's on. Done statement. He is so unbelievably filthy when it comes to physical contact. He will do whatever it takes, at any speed, to disrupt a play. It's malicious what he does. I can't stress, if you picking up what I'm putting down, I can't stress enough how egregious this guy's actions are to make sure that that puck doesn't go in his net. And a lot of you are just salivating at the thought of a guy like this on the team, which I totally get. I'm genuinely not sure if he should be allowed to play hockey with the way he does, the recklessness that he displays. But he skates well enough. He doesn't have the puck moving. He doesn't have the high-end talent. The guy doesn't quit. And through suspensions and penalties and whatever it takes, he keeps the puck out of the net. So Jackson Edward, I look forward to seeing you in a couple of years, except for I don't, because I'm terrified of what you're going to do. Let's get to the list. Number 10, we have Riley Duran. Riley Duran belongs on this list not because of his high-end talent. He's a center right wing, 22 years old, 16 points in 35 games at Providence College, 4 points in 11 games in Providence in the AHL. This guy empties the bucket every time. He's going to be your new favorite fourth liner. Dude is a plug and play, get him in there, let him rip, limitless energy, spark plug. His tenacity to chase down plays and get the pucks in deep is a coach's dream. He lacks any one attribute other than that you're like, great, NHL talent. It doesn't exist in his body. Doesn't matter to him. Everywhere he's gone, he forces himself to be an invaluable member of the lineup. He's beloved by teammates. He works his ass off. You're going to love him. Temper your expectations. I'm not going to hear any Beecher 1C kind of stuff with Riley Duran, but you are going to love having him on your team. He's just not going to be the difference in winning or losing a playoff game by any means. At number 9, we have Brandon Bussey, the first goaltender on our list, one of two. Spoiler alert. He's big, athletic, and a funny name to boot. Bussey is the guy on a lot of fans' lips as the Bruins are staring down the barrel of moving a goaltender in the offseason and needing someone to step in. His numbers show that as well. Solid year in Providence last year with a .913 save percentage, a 2.67 goals allowed average, .922 in 4 playoff games this year as well. But there is a vibe around the team and around another goaltender who we'll mention in a little while, who actually looks to have the inside track to win the backup role out of camp. Now, this is close, though. I'm not sitting here going, it's this guy, not Bussey, but it is odd that Bussey is not looked at as your third guy on the depth chart by everyone in that organization. Seems that the Bruins have another guy in mind. Now, Bussey is still waiting on a contract. He's an RFA. I'm sure that that's going to get qualified, and we're going to see what we can do with him. Because I know they don't want to move him, and the likelihood of if Omark stays and Bussey making it through waivers is low, I would say. I would really doubt that he gets through waivers without another team taking a chance. So they have to make a decision here. I'm not sure what it's going to be. Now, like I mentioned, he's big and he's athletic. 6'4", 230 pounds. Gets across pretty decently. Flails a little bit. You can use the word flailing at times, sprawling at times, which is fine because he's making the saves. At the NHL level, there's some doubt. Usually, the Bruins fall in love with goalies who focus on economy of motion, who are the type to get hit in the chest with a puck rather than have to make a blocker or glove save. Those are the goalies that they like, because there's more consistency to them. Sure, in that big moment, maybe they don't have the athleticism to make the crazy second save, but the low danger chances, the medium danger chances, those don't go in against those types of goalies. Bussey is the guy to make the big save, but there's holes every now and again. So that might be why they're looking another direction as the next guy on the depth chart. I don't really want to speak for the team too deeply there because I think that race is a hell of a lot closer than a lot of people realize. Next on our list, number 8, a guy that I've kind of flip-flopped on. Brett Harrison, 20-year-old center, left shot. His future in the league, I'm sure, is on the left wing. I do not think this guy is going to be an NHL center by any stretch of the imagination. I said he's a left shot. He has an NHL shot right now. He did a year ago. He did 2 years ago. I mean legitimately, at 18 years old, if you put him on the ice for drills, he could beat an NHL goaltender with his shot. I mean that. I don't know how to stress that enough. Unbelievable. He lacks any other pure physical NHL quality, in my opinion. But plays a rather deceptive game. He's good at finding space or creating opening for himself and others so that he can unleash that shot. But the problem I have with his game a lot is when I've watched him, I notice that he really loves to trail. He loves to be the guy that gets set up for the play. Now, there's nothing wrong with a trigger man on a line. Nothing wrong with that at all. But when you're asking for more, getting into the dirty areas, getting the goals that are harder to come by but are necessary to win professional hockey games at the highest level, you're going to be left wanting sometimes. Because although he can beat goalies from a distance, goalies get better at the next level. And he doesn't mix it up physically enough that really makes him stand out for a professional league. I also think that problem kind of infects his whole game. Like, I like Harrison, but on the other end of the ice, he's responsible, but again, he's not going to mix it up the way you might like for a center to do, which is why I definitely believe he's going to be towards the wing. I don't think he drives a line. He doesn't assert himself into the play enough, often looking for space that will lead to a chance, which has its place in hockey, but this is a guy that you'd like to see driving a line because of his ability with the puck. He just doesn't really have that mindset as much, which is why he's ranked as low as he is. Again, you got to remember the Bruins prospect list is not going to be overtly impressive with a bunch of top 6 talents. He has a top 6 NHL shot. I think he's a middle 6 kind of guy that is not driving his own line. He's going to benefit from an excellent playmaker on his line. So there's that, but he's better off being a trigger man on like a third line, which might mean he's trade bait, honestly, but we'll see how that goes. At number 7, we have our other goaltender, the one with the inside track. 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, a .918 save percentage, 2.51 goals per game allowed in Providence. It's Michael DiPietro. The first of 2 players that we received in the Studnicka trade from Vancouver that are on this list. Is that damning to the Bruins prospect pool, or is that saying that trade might have been better than we thought? Well, I guess time will tell. This goalie was really held in high regard for a while, and then his development seemed to stall out in Vancouver before the Studnicka trade brought him over. Since then, he's posted strong numbers in the ECHL and in the AHL, although they weren't enough to pass Bussy on the depth chart for the playoffs. Bussy got all 4 playoff games. He was playing really well for Providence this year. DiPietro didn't see any playoff time. So again, it's weird when you hear people from the org say, hey, I think DiPietro actually has the inside track on this, but he wasn't the guy playing in the playoffs this last year. Just an interesting thing to keep an eye on. The reason he's listed higher than Bussy is those previous notes, and his game is based off balance, in my opinion. He thinks ahead of plays well and tracks the puck well, puts himself in a position to make a big stop without needing a lot of movement, which means there's less holes for it to get through. Because of his size, it does mean he has to be more aggressive, though, which means plays can get behind him easier. Obviously a frustrating thing. 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, that's not a small man, but with the way NHL goaltending is moving these days, you have to be pretty damn talented to be on the smaller end of goaltending and still be effective in the league. I think both Bussy and DiPietro, they scale out as strong backups as their ceiling in the NHL, which again, absolutely has its value, especially if we think Swayman or Ullmark is the long-term guy in net for the Bruins. You can have your opinion on that. But in my opinion, a guy like DiPietro who is good at making sure the puck hits him in the chest or the shoulder or the leg rather than having to make that big save is one they'd trust with a backup role more. That being said, it's not that his glove hand isn't good enough or his blocker side isn't good enough. In fact, his glove hand is actually one of his best attributes. But he simply doesn't have the same athleticism and size that Bussy uses. The compliments I often hear about him, though, are his second save ability. He is really tenacious at fighting through screens, finding the puck, tracking the puck, and making that second effort save, which you just love to see. You love to see. At number 6, a guy who should probably be in the NHL this year, the way I see it. John Farinacci, 23 years old, right shot center. 38 points in 71 games played. Farinacci is a 200-foot guy that rarely disappoints. You know what you're going to get from him. He has a tremendous wrist shot that comes off in a hurry, although you wouldn't consider him a gifted scorer by any real stretch there. On nights where he isn't putting up numbers in the box score, he's still one of your best options to take a big face-off, to play defensively well, to affect the game in other ways, to get the puck deep, make a big clear. You just like what he brings. He, I think, levels out to a third-line center, maybe fourth, but I don't think that really suits him super well. And he's the kind of guy that you go, okay, our third line might not be a scoring line, but I'm going to match him up against another team's best line. I want to use them as our shutdown line. That definitely has its role in the NHL, not something that you're upset about having. Problem I'm having is as we attempt to bring in more center depth, and we already have Coyle and Patra and Geeky and Zaka and Beecher and Frederick if you want to move him over to center, and there's just a lot of players that can play that third line role. It doesn't look like there's a lot of room for Farinacci. Kind of makes me think that unless he takes some sort of big leap or really impresses in camp, you're looking at trade bait. I think another team would really like to see what Farinacci has. And I know we received him in a similar fashion, but I'm likely thinking that he doesn't end up playing for the Boston Bruins. I think he ends up getting moved again. Team that needs more depth. We just have a ton of depth guys and not enough high-end guys. I just don't see him making the next move. At number 5, my favorite prospect. Please do not hear that as our best prospect, because he's not. But Dans Lotmels, 20-year-old left shot center. Who baby? I've been waiting years for him. I'm going to have to wait a couple more years because he was drafted in 2022. He was a 4 to 5 year project when they drafted him. I knew this. You knew this. Maybe you knew this. This is actually a guy who I feel like is not on a lot of Bruins fans' radars. Now, of course, if you've watched this channel in the past, he's probably on your radar because I talk about him a lot. But this is a guy who is going to avoid the scrutiny of NHL fans for a little while as he continues to develop. He had an underwhelming season this year at UMass, which is fine because European players coming over to play on the smaller ice oftentimes have an adjustment season. Totally fine with that. 2 to 3 years away from breaking into the NHL. He is a 200-foot player. He's got quick hands, uses his stick exceptionally well, particularly defensively, is a strong puck protector in the offensive zone. His transition plays are smooth, and he always is looking for the next bit of space, and can sometimes actually outthink his line mates and ends up with a weird turnover because he saw something they didn't, and off it goes, which I think at the NHL level gets itself sorted out, honestly. He is not a flashy goal scorer or a sturdy shutdown guy. He's neither of those things. He is not gifted with a bunch of physical attributes that you could refer to as elite. His game, and why I think the Bruins would be smart to see this through with him, is based on manipulation. He shifts defensemen. He sees things and finds things that are just baffling sometimes. Every time I'm watching him, every time I'm looking up tape, there's just moments where I go, what did you see there? And it's not flashy. It's simple little stuff. It's small structural things where he just made the right shift, which opened up a little bit of space, which created a passing lane, backdoor tapping. The guy's not afraid to shoot. He's not afraid to try to make a play. But he is what I believe the prototypical player for being better than what his projections show. I said this when he was drafted, and I truly believe it. And look, if this falls by the wayside and you never hear about this guy again, I'll be devastated. You don't have to be. That's fine. Sometimes you just pick a favorite prospect and you live and die by them. But to have a guy that doesn't do anything special physically, but every time he's out there, he seems to make a play. Every time there's space, he's there or he's the one creating it. You've got him cornered, puck's gone. He doesn't even know what you're talking about. He's just standing there with a stick. Like, what do you mean? I never had the puck. Off you go. The guy's clever. He sees things so unbelievably well. I think he thinks the game close to an NHL level already. He can't keep up yet, is the problem. And we're hoping that he gets there. On top of that, he has this uncanny ability everywhere he goes to move up the lineup. In the J20 National League, he started in the bottom 6, moved up to top line minutes, crunch line minutes. Excellent. At the World Juniors for Latvia. Yes, he plays for the Latvia World Juniors team and now for the Latvia World Cup team. Starts in the bottom 6. Coach just starts to trust him more and more. He moves up. I'm expecting the same thing at UMass. Spent a lot of time in the bottom 6. This next year, I'd expect him to move up. He's a tremendous hockey mind. He's a master of time and space. He is our next David Krejci. I'm telling you right now, and I believe that to my core. I think he's our 5th best prospect right now. And I think people will put him close. I think the people who pay attention to prospects will go, he's in the range. I think he has true second-line talent, mentally at least. I doubt many people think that highly of him. We'll see how it goes. But I love the guy. Love the player. He's just so smart. Sometimes watching somebody who's smarter than everybody on the ice is just such a treat. We'll move on. I'm just gushing at this point. At number 4, we're going to get to some names that you're a little more comfortable with at this point. Georgi Merkulov, our little silent assassin down in Providence. 24 years old, left shot winger, 65 points, 30 goals in 67 games played. I think if the dice fell a little differently, he would have had a better shot to stay in the NHL last year. I didn't like the way Monty used him. I don't think Monty was overly interested in having a full-time guy like him. I think, again, we had a ton of depth guys that probably moved him out of the lineup. But he's your third-line trigger man. I don't think he has true top 6 talent. Maybe middle 6, he could take some shifts a little higher up. But third line, finds space behind defenders, really good at just falling out of sight with them so that he can unleash his lethal shot. I just didn't like the way he was used last year when he was brought up. Spent too much time on the 4th line. It just doesn't make sense. He's not physical enough to be that 4th line presence, that shutdown guy. He's not tremendous defensively, although his defensive game has had improvements over the last year or two. What he's really good for, though, is a Craig Smith role from a couple of years ago. His role in the third line will be to keep the puck moving in the offensive zone, open up some space, hammer it at the net. Simple, easy, beautiful. He's going to be great. He's going to be great. He's going to be a very useful secondary scoring guy. His shot has some serious offensive pop to it. I think what you're going to especially love about this guy is that he's never having fun. Ever. He's not. He's never smiling. He doesn't smile. Doesn't do it. How dare you even insinuate that he might? He doesn't do it. He scores a goal, points to his teammates, skates back to center. If that changes in the NHL, I'm going to be livid. I love watching this guy score goals in Providence because he goes, boom, woo, boo, back to the center. Let's go. I don't want coach taking me off. I want another shift. Dude doesn't have fun. He's working. And we have a few guys in the prospect pipeline that are workers, that just want to get in there and mix it up. I appreciate that. Again, I doubt he's a true top 6 guy, but a third line trigger man, yeah, I'll watch Merck do that all year. Absolutely. At number 3, the other player coming over from Vancouver in the Studnicka trade is Jonathan Mierenberg. I probably have him a little high. In fact, you could say 2 of the top 3 guys I might have a little high. But Mierenberg, to me, is our best defensive prospect by a margin. And this was very different last year. I didn't believe this last year. 21 years old, 6'3" right-handed defenseman. He's tough. He's a tough one to judge. He's a smooth skater, has the occasional flashy play in the ozone, but over the last year, what I've really been impressed by is the way he eats minutes against top lines. He is a no-nonsense, doesn't give a crap, just plays against anybody and wants to be the best out there. He's growing into this role where it's a Carlo-esque type. He's got more offensive upside than Carlo, I would say. He's really got that smoothness to his game, but his stick work defensively is really good. He is a fast enough skater where he's going to get in the way, and his positioning's solid. And these are things that I wasn't really sure about previously. But as he continues to log big minutes against top lineups, against grown men, I have a hard time believing this guy doesn't have a route to be a top 4 right-handed defenseman. And honestly, even though the international rules are a little weird for getting a player that's under an SHL contract over to the NHL and the timeline for all of it, Carlo's contract ends 2 years from now, I want to say. Somewhere in that realm. I mean, that could, if at that point they're moving on from Carlo, this might be the guy you're looking at to take that role on the right side as your top 4. I think this guy's got some real potential. It's just, much like many of these guys, he's years away. He's at least a couple of years away, I think. Either way, defenseman, 23 years old coming in the league, that tends to be a pretty consistent factor. Is they're a little on the older side. Somebody to keep an eye on. At number 2, a prospect who has launched himself up my list over the past year. Maybe it's a little box score watching. Might be a little bit, but I try to keep up with the plays as best I can. 21-year-old Oscar Jelvik. Left wing, center. I think it's going to be a left wing for a professional game. 42 points in 41 games played. He drives a line, in my opinion. He's a line driver. He's a middle 6 line driver who I think at his very ceiling, he's a top 6 left wing. Probably your second line. Yeah, I don't know if there's a single guy in our prospect pipeline right now where I'm like, first line. In fact, I know there's not, in my opinion. This is not a guy that you want to play against. Ever. I would hate playing against a guy like this. Every time I watch him, it actually, you know how sometimes, like you watch McDavid and you go, God, I would hate playing against McDavid. You're like in awe, but also, God, ooh, gee, brother, come on. Dude's got a family. This guy just gets it. He's a strong skater, doesn't shy away from contact. He's just got a bit of everything. Nice finish, silky touch when facilitating. But the best part about his game, and you can see how I kind of lean towards this, it's so cerebral, man. He's smart. He sees it. He's thinking the game, in my opinion, at an NHL level right now. Right now, he is thinking the game at an NHL level. Physically, there's some improvement to be done, obviously. He's 21 years old. This is not your blue chip prospect that can come in the league at 19. Those guys are rare. But I think he's thinking the game at an NHL level. He understands how defensemen move. He understands how to manipulate coverages and create space for line mates. He's physically gifted. He is. But his true ticket to the NHL is how he simply understands the game of hockey at seemingly every level. He is our best true prospect currently on the left side, and my probably second favorite prospect to watch at this point. The highlights are fun, and I'd expect him to sign his ELC after this upcoming season. I have a hard time believing, genuinely, that he goes back for a junior year. I think that he's got 1 year left, which is this year, and then he's coming up. AHL first, probably, but by 23, I think he's in the NHL. And of course, your number 1 prospect, a name that you know is coming. And unfortunately, I'm not clickbaity enough or clever enough or anything like that to put Liesel anywhere else. He is still your best prospect. 21 years old, 50 points, 35 assists in 56 games played in Providence. Some injury trouble as well, unfortunately. You know what he is, because he's been your best prospect for years now. Smooth skater, offensive creator, no fear, has increasingly gotten better about mixing it up in dirty areas, although that's still going to be a knock on his game. He's gotten better at it. It's still not a strength of his game. He struggles at times to be in step with the team structure. Not good defensively, though improving. Takes too many penalties. There's plenty of knocks on the guy. And I'm pointing them out because, guys, sometimes it takes time. But the talents that he does have, his shot, awesome. Like, really high end. His vision and his passing, incredible. Awesome. Like, almost NHL level already. His skating, NHL level. And there are things about this guy, there are talents with him that you just don't give up on yet. Particularly the skating. This will come out of every scout's lips. He is a disruptive skating presence. Disruptive. Meaning, when he takes the offensive zone, he breaks the structure of the other team because they have to counter his speed and his ability to turn and pivot. The guy is incredibly talented. And the fan base is frustrated because you see a first-round pick, you get excited about him, you hear a negative review, and then you just throw him to the wolves. I don't think you're wrong. I get the frustration. But he has so much to offer. He's not a talent I'm willing to give up on. If the trade was right, sure, absolutely, I get it. But if you're not looking to move him, you give him a little more time. And this camp is huge for him. This one is big because he has to be able to compete, right? He can't be disappointing. He doesn't have to make the team out of camp, but you can't be disappointed. Because if he has a disappointing camp, then things start to shift. Then it's, okay, you have all this talent, what's the problem? Because if it's between the ears, that's something that's hard to fix. Mujanel down in Providence has made his criticisms about it, but the thing that people didn't pay attention to is Mujanel made those comments 3/4 through the Providence season about how he's not playing with the team. He's not in structure. He's not playing the game the right way. And now you talk to anybody who's with that team, and they're like vast improvements since that statement was made. Almost anybody. That he locked in, that he got better about taking that constructive criticism, that he actually enacted it into his game. And that's the report that never came out, and I don't know why. It was, hey, here's some negative comments, stew on that for 3 months. But don't pay attention to what changes were made. He did improve after that. And then he took a concussion. So, I think the guy's getting a little bit of an unfair pressure from the fan base. Your opinion to move on from him, if the trade was right, isn't incorrect, because the trade can be right for any prospect. But, don't lose faith in him yet. He's young, 21 years old, he has top 6 talent. I think he's a second-line right wing and a damn good one at that. Besides, you don't need him to be a number 1 right wing. That's what pasta's for. But there's your list. I like it. I think it's a good list. If you disagree or you want to talk about any prospects that aren't on the list, feel free to put them below. Thank you all for watching. I'm never any good at ending these. Go Bees. Go Bees! And of course, we have to say a big old thank you to the high-quality inspectors who happen to all be 10 out of 10s. Not sure if you guys knew that. We've got our top-line tier inspectors, GD Viperworks, Tiffany Hagel, Chris and Erica, Len Cruz, Moonlighter TV, The Bugman, Brock Nope, Han Slomo, Coach D, The Atomic Lizard, Bradley Johnson, Aaron Adams, Just Aaron, Darren Woodbury, Brett Arney, Pinsent, and Nick Zatrullo. Absolute studs. 10 out of 10. I'm not kidding. Every single one of them. And, of course, there's the highest of high-quality inspectors. The all-star tier. 12 out of 10s. Can you believe it? So hot. We've got the Mad Marcus, Adrian Winter, Tyler McCourt, Tupton D. Tashi, John Kirk, Jacob Pratt, Heil E. Coyote, Adam Ella, Bruins Smash, Joel, Abraxion, D.A. Kingery, The Only Newts, A Tasty Snack, Doots42, and Jeremy. You guys are stallions. You're all legends, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you and your help with keeping this channel going. Thank you, and go Bees.